In 2005, a college student named Ian Spector sat at his computer and typed a joke. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups, he pushes the earth down. He posted it on the internet, then he posted another, then another. Within weeks, thousands of people were writing and sharing their own versions. Within months, the phenomenon had a name, Chuck Norris Facts, and had spread to every corner of the internet in every language spoken by anyone with a computer and a sense of humor. By 2006, Google reported that Chuck Norris was the most searched person on the entire internet. Not a politician, not a musician, not an athlete at the peak of their career. A 65-year-old former action star and retired television ranger from Oklahoma, who had not made a major film in years and whose most recent public appearances were in infomercials for fitness equipment. The jokes said he could slam a revolving door. That he had already been to Mars, that's why there are no signs of life. That death is just the result of Chuck Norris being bored. Here is what makes this story remarkable. More remarkable than the jokes themselves, more remarkable than the scale of the phenomenon, more remarkable than anything about the internet's strange capacity to elevate the unexpected into the universal. Chuck Norris thought it was funny, not the guarded, calculated response of a celebrity whose image management team had approved a specific reaction. Genuinely, personally, completely funny. The shy boy from Ryan, Oklahoma, who spent his childhood being invisible, who built himself into a world champion and an action star through decades of disciplined work, sat at his kitchen table in Texas and laughed at the jokes about himself. And that response, the laughter, the humility, the complete absence of the ego that the legend described, turned out to be the most interesting thing about the whole phenomenon. This is episode 6, the meme, the man behind it, and the fight that revealed everything. The mechanics of the Chuck Norris Facts phenomenon are simple enough to describe and almost impossible to fully explain. The internet of the mid-2000s is still in the early stages of developing the specific culture of viral content, the understanding of what spreads, why it spreads, and what the spreading says about the people doing it. The Chuck Norris jokes spread for reasons that participants in the spread could not always articulate, which is the characteristic feature of genuinely viral content. It works on a level below the analytical, engaging something instinctive and immediate that precedes the question of why. Part of the answer is the specific structure of the joke formula. The Chuck Norris Fact is a parody of the kind of hard-boiled action hero mythology that the 1980s produced in industrial quantities. The invincible American male, the man for whom the laws of physics are optional, the warrior who cannot be stopped by any force the universe can assemble. The formula takes this mythology and inflates it past any conceivable limit until the inflation itself becomes the joke. Chuck Norris doesn't dial the wrong number. The wrong number dials Chuck Norris. The Great Wall of China was built to keep Chuck Norris out. It failed. The humor works because everyone knows it is impossible, and everyone knows the real Chuck Norris is a human being subject to the same physical laws as everyone else, and the specific gap between the legend and the reality is exactly wide enough to be funny rather than simply absurd. There is genuine affection in the jokes. They are not mockery, not the cutting humor of people trying to diminish their subject, but the specific kind of exaggerated tribute that people pay to figures they genuinely admire by imagining what unlimited versions of their admirable qualities would look like. The geography of the spread is worth noting because it is extraordinary. The Chuck Norris Facts do not remain an American phenomenon. They translate into Russian, into Portuguese, into Mandarin, into Arabic, into every major language with a significant internet presence, and in each translation they acquire local flavor without losing the essential structure. In Brazil, the jokes reference Brazilian culture. In Russia, the jokes reference Russian culture. In each case, the underlying formula, the invincible warrior who bends reality to his will, transfers completely because the archetype it is playing with is not American in its origins, but universal. Every culture has its mythology of the man who cannot be defeated, and the Chuck Norris Facts plug into that mythology with a specific humor that the internet's global reach can carry to every corner where it exists. The generation producing the jokes in 2005 grew up in the 1980s watching the Missing in Action films and Walker, Texas Ranger. Chuck Norris is part of their cultural memory in the specific way of figures who were present during the formative years, not as a contemporary relevance, but as a touchstone. Someone whose name and image carry associations that run deeper than any individual film or episode can fully account for. The jokes are, in part, a tribute to that formation, a way of saying this figure mattered to us, and here is what mattering looks like when it is processed through the specific absurdist humor of internet culture. The reach of the phenomenon extends far beyond the generation that grew up with the films. The jokes translate across language and culture with a fluency that is difficult to account for in purely rational terms. In countries where Chuck Norris's films were never widely distributed, where Walker, Texas Ranger never aired, where the specific American cultural context that produced the action hero is only dimly understood, the jokes land anyway. The archetype they are playing with, the invincible warrior, the man who cannot be defeated, is universal in a way that transcends any specific cultural moment or any particular nationality's entertainment history. By 2007, the phenomenon has produced books, a dedicated website with millions of submissions, and a cultural presence that has made Chuck Norris's name recognizable to people whose parents were not yet born when Missing in Action was filmed. The shy Oklahoma boy who grew up invisible has become, at 65, the most universally recognized joke in human history. Chuck's response to the phenomenon is the most revealing thing about it. He does not call his lawyers. He does not issue statements demanding that the jokes be removed from the internet. He does not engage the kind of publicist whose job is to protect a carefully managed image from the kind of uncontrollable attention that the Chuck Norris facts represent. He sits at his kitchen table in Texas and reads them, and he laughs, and he begins thinking about how to engage with something that has arrived in his life with the complete absence of warning and the equally complete absence of any precedent for how to respond. His engagement is genuine and personal, and, in retrospect, exactly right. He writes about the phenomenon on his own website with the specific humor of a man who finds himself funny rather than the managed humor of someone whose team has determined that humor is the strategically correct response. He appears on television programs and delivers the jokes himself with the timing of a man who has discovered late in life that comedy is a skill he possesses. He includes a Chuck Norris fact in his cameo in The Expendables 2 in 2012, the moment where the film explicitly acknowledges the internet legend and the man who created it look at each other and laugh, in what becomes one of the most discussed scenes of that film. The humility required for this response is worth examining specifically because it is not the humility that is performed for public approval. It is the humility of a man who has never needed the legend to be true in order to feel good about himself. Chuck Norris knows exactly what he is, a disciplined martial artist, a hard-working actor, a man of faith who has tried to live his values consistently across 8 decades. He does not need the internet to believe he can slam a revolving door. He does not need the mythology to confirm what the training hall and the tournament circuit and the dojang in Korea already confirmed 60 years ago. The legend is external. The man is internal. And because the two are completely separated in his own understanding, the exaggeration of the external cannot threaten the integrity of the internal. This is the quality that the jokes, for all their affection, could never quite capture. The man is more grounded than the legend, and the grounding is what made the legend possible in the first place. The book he co-writes with Ian Spector, the official Chuck Norris Fact Book, is not a celebrity cash-in on a trend. It is a genuine collaboration between the man who inspired the jokes and the young man who started them, and the proceeds benefit the KICKSTART initiative. The specific transaction, the internet's affectionate absurdist tribute to the action hero converted into money that goes to at-risk children in Texas, is one of the more elegant pieces of cultural symmetry in recent American popular history. What the meme phenomenon does for Chuck Norris professionally is significant and specific. It introduces him to a generation that did not grow up watching his films. The millennials who were children during the Walker years and who know him primarily as the subject of the most famous jokes on the internet. It gives him a cultural relevance that no conventional comeback strategy could have produced, in the specific form of something that cannot be manufactured, genuine, widespread, affectionate recognition that operates independently of any media campaign or commercial calculation. The Expendables 2 arrives in 2012, and Chuck's appearance in it, his first major film role in many years, is received as an event in part because of the meme phenomenon. The audience that floods into theaters to see him is not entirely the audience that watched Missing in Action in 1984. It includes people who have never seen Missing in Action, who know Chuck Norris primarily as the subject of internet jokes, and who are curious to see what the real man looks like when placed in the specific context of the film that the jokes were always referencing. He does not disappoint. The physical presence is real. The authenticity is real. The specific quality that Bruce Lee identified in the Coliseum in 1972, the thing the camera confirms rather than manufactures, is still there 4 decades later, in a man who has never stopped training and whose body still reflects everything the training has always produced. He is 71 years old. He looks like someone who has been doing roundhouse kicks every morning since 1958 and who intends to continue doing them for as long as his body will allow. The audience responds to this with the specific enthusiasm of people who are seeing something they did not expect, the legend, confirmed rather than diminished by time. And then comes the fight that has nothing to do with any of it. In 2012, Gina O'Kelly Norris undergoes a series of MRI scans to investigate joint pain she has been experiencing. The scans require the injection of a gadolinium-based contrast agent, a standard medical procedure used routinely in MRI imaging to improve the visibility of internal structures. Gina has the scans. The joint pain is investigated. The medical procedures proceed in the routine way of medical procedures, and she goes home. What follows is not routine. In the weeks and months after the MRI scans, Gina develops a set of symptoms that her doctors initially struggled to connect to any identifiable cause. Burning sensations throughout her body, severe pain in her arms and legs, cognitive difficulties, profound fatigue of a kind that is qualitatively different from normal tiredness, the fatigue of a system under assault rather than a body that needs rest. She seeks treatment. She does not improve. She seeks more treatment. The symptoms persist and in some areas worsen. The medical investigation that follows takes years and produces answers that come slowly and incompletely. The gadolinium from the MRI contrast agent, Ep6, which is supposed to be processed by the kidneys and eliminated from the body within hours, has not been fully eliminated. It has deposited in her tissues, in her brain, in her bones. The condition, which comes to be identified as gadolinium deposition disease, is not widely recognized in the medical establishment at the time of Gina's diagnosis. Many doctors are unfamiliar with it. Many of the specialists she consults are skeptical that the contrast agent is responsible for her symptoms. The path from injection to illness is disputed, and the dispute has real consequences for the treatment she receives and the speed with which effective treatment is found. Chuck puts everything aside. This requires a specific understanding of what everything means in the context of a man whose career has been active for 60 years. The film projects are declined. The public appearances are reduced to the minimum that existing commitments require. The media presence that the meme phenomenon and the Expendables 2 have expanded is deliberately contracted. Chuck Norris is not available for what the entertainment industry wants from him because Chuck Norris is in Texas taking care of his wife. He becomes her primary caregiver, researcher, and advocate simultaneously. The caregiving is physical and daily. The management of her symptoms, the adjustments to her environment that her condition requires, the constant patient presence of someone who understands that what a person who is seriously ill needs most, beyond the medical interventions, is the certainty that they are not facing it alone. Chuck provides this with the totality of his attention in a way that the people around them observe with the specific kind of moved recognition that genuine devotion produces. The research is the work of a man who has always addressed problems analytically. He reads everything he can find about gadolinium deposition disease, the medical literature, the patient communities that have formed online around the condition, the emerging research on gadolinium retention in human tissue. He connects with researchers, he connects with other patients. He builds an understanding of the condition that goes beyond what most lay people would develop, and that informs his advocacy for Gina's treatment in conversations with medical professionals who may know the general literature better than he does, but who have not spent years immersed in the specific, devastating detail of what this condition does to a specific person he loves. The advocacy extends beyond Gina's individual case. He files lawsuits against the manufacturers of gadolinium contrast agents, seeking damages and accountability for a condition he believes was caused by their product and inadequately disclosed in their warnings. The lawsuits are not primarily about money. Chuck Norris does not need the money. They are about the other patients whose conditions are not being recognized, whose symptoms are being dismissed, whose path to treatment is obstructed by a medical establishment that has not yet fully reckoned with the evidence. He uses the specific resource that the martial arts champion and the action hero and the television star have produced: the public platform, the recognizable name, the ability to make a story visible that would otherwise remain invisible, in the service of people who have no platform of their own. He is, in the fight for Gina's health, the same person he has always been, a man who identifies the problem precisely, applies the full weight of his discipline and intelligence to addressing it, refuses to be deterred by opposition or skepticism or the institutional inertia of systems that prefer their existing categories to the evidence in front of them, and keeps going until the work produces the result. The martial arts never left him. They just found a different ring. Gina's recovery is long and incomplete and ongoing. The nature of gadolinium deposition disease, as the medical literature increasingly acknowledges in the years following her diagnosis, is that recovery is measured in incremental improvements, rather than a single, identifiable return to health. She improves. The improvement is real and documented, and the product of the years of treatment and research and advocacy that Chuck organized around her care. She is not the person she was before the MRI scans. She is a person who has been through something serious and who is living with the consequences while continuing to live her life with the faith and the resilience that Chuck has always recognized as the core of who she is. The relationship between them through these years is observed by the people who know them with the specific quality of attention that genuine love under pressure attracts. Chuck Norris has played invincible heroes for 40 years. He has embodied, in the specific physical grammar of the action film and the television drama, a version of strength that the culture has always understood as the capacity for violence in the service of justice. The strength required to sit beside a sick person, day after day, year after year, to manage the logistics of care, to advocate against institutional resistance, to maintain the quality of presence that a loved one needs when they are suffering, is a different kind of strength entirely, and it does not have a visual language in any film genre. He practices it anyway, with the same total commitment that he brought to the dojang in Korea in 1958 and to the tournament circuit in the 1960s and to Walker, Texas Ranger, in the 1990s. The discipline is the same. The application is different. The result, a wife who is receiving the best possible care. A marriage that has been deepened rather than broken by what it has endured. A public understanding of gadolinium deposition disease that is measurably greater because of his advocacy is what the discipline produces when applied to the thing that matters most, rather than the thing that the world is watching. People who visit them during this period describe Chuck in terms that are consistent and specific, attentive, calm, focused, the same quality of presence in the sick room that he brought to every training hall and every film set he ever occupied. Not performing equanimity for guests, but genuinely possessing it. The specific hard-won equanimity of a man who has faced difficult things for 80 years and has developed the internal resources to remain present when presence is the most important thing available to give. He makes tea, he adjusts Gina's medications, he answers the door, he sits beside her and holds her hand and tells her that they will figure it out. He means it every time he says it, and she knows he means it. And this knowing is not a small thing when everything else is uncertain. The meme generation that discovered him through internet jokes in 2005 finds something in this story that the jokes could not have predicted. The indestructible warrior of the Chuck Norris Facts turns out to be a man who was made vulnerable by the same thing that makes everyone vulnerable: the love of someone specific and the specific terror of watching that someone suffer. The legend in the face of this reality does not collapse. It becomes more interesting. The real Chuck Norris is always more interesting than the legend. He has been demonstrating this one episode at a time for 86 years. Episode 7, the final chapter, the last years. The morning training that never stopped, the legacy that 3 generations have claimed as their own. And the March morning in Hawaii when the warrior finally rested. This is Legends of America.